Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood, and I am coming to you on this day, on this World Day to End the Death Penalty. On this day, Indigenous Peoples Day, to talk to you about an indigenous man, a Choctaw man named Anthony Sanchez, who is on death row in Oklahoma. This case is, at first sight, first glance, a case that seems really open and shut, really obvious. Well, oftentimes things are not what they appear to be. Then again, we have this whole notion that we're still killing people in order to teach people not to kill. We're still pushing for people to die in order to keep people from dying. You see, no matter what you think about this case, the lunacy of the death penalty is the lunacy of the death penalty. But quickly, I wanted to take you through some nuance with regards to this case. You see, when Julie Buskin was brutally murdered in 1996, the DNA evidence was handled by a forensic chemist, a forensic analysis by the name of Joyce Gilchrist. Joyce Gilchrist worked for the Oklahoma City Police Department. There, Joyce Gilchrist worked with a district attorney by the name of Bob Macy and other district attorneys around the state to secure convictions no matter what the cost. You see, Joyce Gilchrist was so inept at her job, she was fired in 2001. Report after report after report have shown the incompetence and the criminality of Joyce Gilchrist. Let me tell you a couple of the situations that Joyce Gilchrist was involved with. Based on flawed forensic analysis by Joyce Gilchrist, Michael Blair spent 15 years on death row in Oklahoma for a crime that he did not commit. Based on flawed forensic analysis from Joyce Gilchrist, Malcolm Rent Johnson was executed for a crime that many suspect he did not commit. Based on flawed forensic analysis from Joyce Gilchrist, Curtis McCarty spent 20 years on death row in Oklahoma for a crime that he did not commit. Based on flawed forensic analysis from Joyce Gilchrist, Johnny Edward Tallbear spent 26 years on death row in Oklahoma for a crime that he did not commit. Based on flawed forensic analysis from Joyce Gilchrist, Jeffrey Pierce spent 15 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. Based on flawed forensic analysis from Joyce Gilchrist, David Bryson spent 20 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. I could go on and on and on. There are innumerable cases that Joyce Gilchrist was involved with where false convictions were secured. After all of this stuff blew up, and it was found out that she was manipulating evidence to help the prosecution, a report was issued. In the report, these things were cited as problematic with Gilchrist's work. They said that she lost evidence in numerous cases. There was contamination due to evidence being stacked all over her desk and in the lab. There was systematic destruction of evidence. There was a lack of peer review in various cases, and there was absence of proficiency testing to make sure that the results were accurate. Of the dozens of death penalty cases that Gilchrist worked on, almost half or more have already been executed. Based on what you've just heard, how many of those people do you think were innocent? Chief forensic scientist John Wilson from Kansas City, Missouri, when asked about Joyce Gilchrist, he declared that the entire criminal justice system had failed. Joyce Gilchrist died in 2015, but her legacy of terror and false convictions remain. I want you to stop for a second and take the case of a Choctaw man named Anthony Sanchez, who currently sits on death row. Based on the trajectory of the evidence in this case, as we mentioned earlier, the 1996 murder of Julie Buskin in Norman, Oklahoma, the DNA was sent to Joyce Gilchrist. You see, Joyce Gilchrist interacted with the evidence. In April of 2023, April 6th of 2023, Anthony Sanchez is scheduled to be executed. Surely Gilchrist's connection alone should give us all pause, should make us all think twice when it comes to the execution, the conviction of Anthony Sanchez. I want to speak right now to those who are supportive of the death penalty. Obviously, the words execution and doubt should never go together. For those who are supportive of the death penalty, I would imagine that your morality, your ethics are going to tell you we should never execute someone who is innocent. But I can assure you, as long as Joyce Gilchrist was involved in the analysis, in the process, there will always be questions. The words execution, doubts, questions should never go together. What is more, in Oklahoma has a long history of problematic relations with Native people. This is a Choctaw man being executed on Choctaw land. The death chamber is within the Choctaw Nation. So once again, we have a situation where a white majority is going in to execute on native land, a native man on native land. So I want you to stop for a second. On this World to Abolish the Death Penalty Day, I want you to think about Joyce Gilchrist, and I want you to wonder how many people are there out there whose DNA has been messed up, who the forensic analysis has been messed up. Are we prepared to keep executing people even though we know that mistakes are being made on a regular basis? Joyce Gilchrist isn't the only Joyce Gilchrist. There are innumerable Joyce Gilchrists out there who are willing to push evidence in one way or another in order to secure convictions. We know that because all you have to do is Google other cases and they exist. On this Indigenous Peoples Day, are we prepared to let the white man once again go to native land to kill a native man, a native person? For these reasons, I ask that you take a second and first of all pray for Anthony Sanchez. Pray that this execution will be stopped, that Anthony Sanchez will not be executed on April the 6th, 2023. Even more than that, I ask you to pray that the death penalty will be abolished around the world. and that we will quit killing people in order to try to show people that killing is wrong. And lastly, I pray that you will take a second to stop, to meditate, to pray that we will examine the way that we have treated native and indigenous peoples and draw back from the marginalization and oppression that we continue to perpetuate. Let's abolish the death penalty. Let's develop a society that doesn't treat people like shit. Let's develop a society in which we learn to love each other. Abolish the death penalty. Stop treating indigenous persons like terrible. Abolish the death penalty. Quit treating indigenous persons terrible. Abolish the death penalty. Quit treating indigenous persons terrible. Save Anthony Sanchez. Amen, 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 and amen.